Tequila. I just peeled off a sticker and put it on my laptop because I am a middle school girl. I got it at stuff last night, or not last night, last weekend. Any Hoosers, welcome back to .NET Phillies. We are back. The game wrapped up about 5 minutes ago, and I worked early today, so I was able to A, watch the game, and B, record almost immediately. What? Is that allowed? Yeah. So Phillies just took 2 out of 3 from the Mariners, and after a very lackluster beginning to the series, they kind of battled back. They looked like a full team again. It was really nice to see. They pulled out a gutsy 1-0 win today. Definitely had my doubts. I definitely thought that they were gonna tie it or take the lead with one swing, and that's the stress of a one-run game is one swing of the bat and we're tied up, or they have the lead if it's tied or whatever. But shall we get right into it? I'm trying to think of any news. We'll talk about that once we talk about game 2, the Taijuan Walker injury. We're going to get into that a little bit. We had some updates about Bryce, which he might be back soon. I think I touched on it in the last podcast. Is he might be back by the time the Boston Red Sox are in town, and that would just be insane. It's very unknown. He's getting reevaluated on May 1st, but this is just absolutely asinine. The fact that we went from preparing ourselves to be without Bryce Harper for a majority of this season until July to now he could be in the starting lineup in 3 weeks. The guy's not human. I love him. He's our guy. But that was of note. I talked about Bilotti last time. Okay, but all right, let's I think all the headlines are taken care of. Let's get right into the series. Game 1. Phillies, the only loss of the series for them, they lost 5-2 to the Seattle Mariners. So the game was kind of moving. You had Falter and you had Gonzalez. I think that's his name. Yes, Marco Gonzalez. That's it. I was right. Didn't even have to look it up. I used the good old noggin for that one. But those two guys were just absolutely just hammering the strike zone. And it was similar to today with Kirby and Strom. But again, we'll get to game 3. But these guys were dueling, very quick. The first 4 innings took less than an hour. And then the scoring kind of all unraveled in the 5th inning where Bailey Falter hit a wall. Bailey Falter was really good in this game. He went 6 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, no walks, and 7 strikeouts. That's a solid Bailey Falter outing. I mean, there was some controversy. So Bailey Falter in the 5th inning gave up the 2 runs, but he threw 32 pitches. And the controversy lies in the 6th inning when instead of pulling Falter after that long inning, and the Phillies kind of didn't really put up a fight in that half. Mundo had a solo home run in that half, but one swing of the bat and then the next guy was out. He didn't have a lot of time to recuperate. His mechanics were off. His slot was all over the place. He just really wasn't dialed in, and he already gave you 5 innings of a solid outing in 5 innings. And I think Thompson tried to push it and to get another inning out of Bailey Falter. And look, everybody, including myself, I love Rob Thompson. I love everything he does. I love Philly Rob. But, one of his downfalls, and which is why we love him so much in comparison with Girardi, is that he trusts his guys too much. Obviously you want every single guy on your roster to succeed, but you need to also understand that, there are limitations, kind of take what you can get, especially with a guy like Falter. It's not like he's looking at Nola. He's looking at Wheeler. He's looking at Strom with the way he's been throwing the ball. This guy is your 5th starter. And that was kind of established in the beginning of the season. And even in last year when he was asked to take on starts. He's never going to be a guy who's going to blow you away. That being said, I thought he has been, and I mentioned this in, previous podcasts. I mentioned it on TikTok and Instagram a bunch of times. Like, I think Bailey Falter this season has taken a huge step forward in terms of the amount of innings you can get from him. And not only that, but the amount of quality innings you can get to him. I felt like a lot early on in his career, it was like 3-4 innings, like 4 runs. Now he's giving you 6 innings, 7 innings, like 3-4 runs. Like you can work with that, especially when your bullpen isn't being taxed like it was at the beginning of the year. And we saw the bullpen step up huge. I think at their past 11 games, they have like an 0.86 ERA, which is just insane. But because those guys have had time to rest, they're not being relied on every night to tackle multiple innings because your starters are actually giving you quality starts, some more than others. But we'll get to him because he might be injured. But another person who impressed me in this game outside of Bailey Falter. The controversy of Bailey Falter. I completely forgot to mention that. You bring him out for the 6th inning again, and then Teoscar Hernandez hits a 2-run home run to make it 4-1. And then, it's kind of out of reach at that point, but you can still kind of battle back. But being down 1 run and being down 3 runs, obviously 2 very different things. You have different approaches to them because if you're down 3 runs, your approach is get on base, kind of next guy up, let's keep it rolling. Where if it's a 1-run game, yeah, you can have that same mentality, but with one swing of the bat, you're tied up, So that was kind of the controversial thing that Topper did. And he kind of corrected it himself in today's game. You had Strom go in there for 5 1/3, really excellent innings, 5 1/3 shutout innings. And instead of facing the lineup a third time around, he instead took him out, brought in Sir Anthony. And there was a moment on the mound when they're talking, and this chair is really creaky. It's why it's throwing me off. But there was a moment on the mound where Topper, I felt like, had to explain to Strom why, because Strom only threw like 60 some pitches. I think he was explaining to him, being like, look, these guys have taken decent swings. You're facing, Julio Rodriguez, Jared Kelnick, who is now on the list of Philly killers. Teoscar Hernandez. They got dudes, Eugenio Suarez. They got dudes in that lineup who, especially against Strom's not a soft tossing lefty, but he's not throwing 98 out there. I think Topper was like, okay, I'm not making the same mistake that I did with Bailey tonight or, the other night, and I'm going to take you out, which I like the move. It worked out perfectly. And I like how Thompson's learning and being not learning, but realizing his mistake. Cause I do think he thinks that was a mistake, letting Falter go out for the 6th to face those guys a third time. And now he's like, okay, don't do that, and put in my guys, my bullpen, who has been locked down for an extended period of time for the past couple of weeks. So then we get to, I got to give credit here. And, if you showed me this clip 2 weeks ago and showed, 2-week-old Jared back then and 2-week to me now, Christian Pache has been really good, and I'm playing him over Jake Cave every day right now. Christian Pache, according to Corey Seidman of NBC Sports Philadelphia, Pache is 8 for 16 since his start in Philadelphia, like since his really bad, like few at-bats where I'm like, literally, I never want to see you play baseball again. Mixed in with Gold Glove caliber defense, like if you have Schwarber at DH, Pache in left, Marsh in center, what ball is getting down on that side? Even Casty had a great sliding play today. What ball is getting down? Trick question. There isn't any. So, having Pache out there, you can kind of shade Marsh over to the right. You shade Pache over to the left to cover Castellanos to kind of pick him up. But again, Castellanos hasn't been bad out there. He's not a great defender, but he hasn't been bad. But Pache had a couple hits in this game. He had great defensive plays. And then we kind of get to, the Phillies are down 4-1. We're trying to collect hits and everything. Then you get to the 6th inning. You have bases loaded. Alec Boehm's up. He smokes a ball, and Ty France makes a really, really good play to pick it and get the out. Which that was kind of like the point where I'm like, damn, it's just not their game tonight. Because if that ball sweeps through, that's 2 runs. Then it's 4-3. Who knows what happens in that bats after that? But it was a really good play by Ty France. And then Jose Caballero, I believe is how you say it, had a sac fly in the 7th to make it 5-2. He was a pain in the you know what. I was about to say, I don't curse on this podcast, but he was a pain in the you know what. He was worked really good at bats, fouled off a ton of pitches at that at bat last night where he fouled off 10 pitches against Alvarado, who's arguably the best relief pitcher in baseball. Sucks. But I put in my notes because there was a Junior Marte sighting in this game. I said Topper threw in the towel by putting Marte in ... 1, 2, 3 inning as we all predicted. Marte looked better, which I don't know. I think Junior Marte's downfall was he wasn't put into the right situations. But that being said, you're a big league pitcher. You got to make the best situation out of whatever situation you're in. You got to execute. He pitched really well in this game, and with Andrew Bellotti on the men's. Sorry, there's something in my eye. Oh Christ. With Andrew Bellotti on the shelf for a little while, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Junior Marte. But if Topper can use him in the correct situations, which I think this game was, I think you can get something out of him. Hopefully, he kind of learns from Caleb Cotham, and then if he gets sent down to AAA, learn from the AAA guys, because obviously that worked with Alvarado last year. So we'll see. I think it's time to. And then Jake Cave had an RBI single in the ninth. And then, first, and then Stott struck out. But I literally was like, oh, it's comeback season. They don't call them the Fightens for nothing. But then, obviously, Stott struck out, and the game was over 5-3, actually. My bad. Meant to, in my notes, I had 5-2, 5-3. JK, LOL. I'm opening up a dialogue because the pitchers we saw Falter, Connor Brogdon, not a Connor Brogdon guy. I don't like him at all. Well, he's looked better, but I don't know. I feel like he's a guy where I'm like, it's either going to be dominance or it's going to be like 3 hits and 2 runs. And there is no in between for Connor Brogdon. So not a big Connor Brogdon guy. I mentioned Marte. It's time to open up a dialogue about Andrew Vasquez. Andrew Vasquez has been pitching very, very well for this team. He has a sub-1 ERA in about 12 innings, I think. And obviously, they've been in mop-up roles. He's a long man. He's the Phillies' long man. He's the guy that you put in if the Phillies are down or, whatever, if the Phillies are in a blowout. That Andrew Vasquez is the guy you put in. Is he actually good, or is it just the situation he's in just is, he's not as good as the situation sees himself? Like if he's in a high leverage situation, he wouldn't be as good. I don't know. It's something to take note in. I think that if you get to a point where I would roll the dice with Andrew Vasquez in a high leverage situation and see how he does. Because, dude, if you get Andrew Vasquez to be a high leverage guy, there's not a weak spot in this bullpen. Even Ortiz is pretty good. I don't know. I understand from the baseball perspective of you want to have your guys be in the best situation possible for them. And I think for Andrew Vasquez, the best spot for him right now is in that mop-up role in the, a 2, 3, 4 innings at a time when it's a blowout on either side, but I would maybe roll the dice, see how he does in a high leverage situation, because the worst thing you do is just see how he performs. If he performs well, maybe you could get a little bit more out of him. But if he performs poorly, stick him right back in the role he was in. I feel like it's a win-win situation. I think. I don't know. That's just me. All right. So that was a mixture of everything. But game 1, they lost 5-3. It was kind of a back and forth. They looked like they were rallying, but didn't. But any Hoosers, we are back in W column. Game 2, Phillies 6, Mariners 5. This was a good team win. And when I say good team win, I don't mean good team as the Phillies. I mean a good team as in a good baseball team found the way to win this game because of the circumstances around it. Nick Castellanos, who, by the way, is back. I am all the way, beginning of the season, I'm kind of a little reserved, being like, he might be back, but he might slow. No. Nick Castellanos is back. Official statement. I'm going to make a thumbnail and put that as like a thing. Nick Castellanos is back. Jared of .NET Phillies. Right there. Put it in the rafters. Had a 2-run home run, the opposite field, just smooth through the thing, did a little bat flip. He's so back. It's unreal. So he had a 2-run home run in the first, and I'm like, okay, great start. Walker, shutdown inning. That didn't happen. Taijuan Walker threw 35 pitches in the second inning and gave up 5 runs, 4 of which were off the bat of J.P. Crawford, former Phil. Obviously, if people don't remember who J.P. Crawford is, J.P. Crawford was traded to Seattle before the 2019 season in exchange. It was the Gene Segura trade that we got Gene Segura. It was Juan Nicasio, and it was a pitcher we never even was it Pazos? James Pazos, I think that's his name. I'll edit it. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I might be lazy, but I think it was James Pazos was the other pitcher in that trade, but it sent J.P. Crawford and Carlos Santana to the Mariners. So he had a grand slam, dead center field. And I even said, I'm like, there's no way that he doesn't hit this 400 dead center, and of course it does. So then the Phillies go down 4-2. The umpire missed a strike 3 call on Julio Rodriguez, and then the very next pitch, Walker gives up a solo home run, which is just awesome. But the argument to that is you're a big league pitcher, make a pitch. But then my argument to that argument is they did make the pitch. The umpire just missed it. So whatever, 5-2, Seattle goes up, and then the Phillies go down 1-2-3 in the second inning, as we all predicted. To touch on that, so Taijuan Walker went 4 innings, 5 hits, 5 earned runs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. If I need to give him credit for something, it's he has in his past 3 starts limited the walks a ton. In the first 2 starts of the season, he couldn't find the strike zone, walked like 12 guys, I think, in 2 starts. Not ideal from a guy you're paying that much money to, but to kind of peel back, Taijuan Walker left with right forearm tightness. Topper said after the game that it's nothing serious. It's just precautionary. So it kind of makes sense about why he was struggling so much in the second and even in the third and fourth. You could tell something was off. Like his arm slot wasn't there. I don't know what it was, but obviously he was injured. So he fought through that. But I said Taijuan Walker so far in his Phillies career, and I really hope he turns it around. He currently sits with a 4.97 ERA, which is not good. That's not what you want to see from a guy who you're paying, $15+ million to. But then I kind of did a little, not a huge deep dive. Jesus, it was a Google search away. But Taijuan Walker innings per start, he went 4 1/3 in his first start, 4 1/2. 4 1/2. Jesus. 4 2/3. Then he went 6, 6 1/3, and 4. So he's averaging 5 innings a start. You need more out of your third starter right now. I mean, I guess technically he's your third starter. I would argue Strom more so is your third starter, but you need at least 6, out of every start. My slipper's falling off. Okay, there we go. It was bothering me. You need at least 6 out of him. 6 or 3 earned, I'll take. Obviously, some starts are going to be better. Some starts are going to be worse, but there's a trend here. He's just not getting that deep into ball games, which is concerning. I don't know if he's fighting through an injury. We obviously know he's injured, but I don't know if how much that predates last night. So that's just something to keep an eye on with him. Obviously, as soon as we get news on that, I will be posting it on all my socials. So to keep everybody updated. You then get to and this is kind of, so it's 5-2. You're going into the third inning at this point, and now your goal right now against the guy. Oh God, who pitched last night? It wasn't Kirby. He was today. Gilbert, against Logan Gilbert. My apologies. A guy against a guy like Gilbert, who's been very, very good. Not this year, really, but in years past, he's been shown he has top of the line talent. You just got to chip away. You got to make sure that your bullpen, and the Phillies bullpen tonight or last night was excellent. They kept the Mariners at 5 runs. That was their only offense in that second inning. So they did a very good job of limiting the damage, because very easily that game could have spiraled out and been like a 12-2 loss by the Phillies. But instead, they dialed it in. They kept them in the game. Then Schwarber had an RBI single in the third to make it 5-3. And then Castellanos had an RBI single in the fifth, who, by the way, Casty 3 for 4 last night. And I think, what was he, 2 for 4 tonight or today? 1, maybe. I should have wrote it down, but unprofessional over here. So yeah, Casty went 3 for 4. He's back. I'm all the way back in. So then in the fifth inning, you're looking at 5-4. And then the offense kind of stops. The pitching is still rolling. Ortiz had 2 innings. Um, 1 hit, no 1 runs, no walks, 2 strikeouts. Sir Anthony had an inning, 1 hit, 2 strikeouts. Craig Kimbrell, who has been really good. The whole bullpen, as I mentioned, I sound like a broken record here. The Phillies bullpen has been lights out for like 2 weeks now. Like, it's every guy in there. Like, there's not a guy that they put in. Well, there is, but I feel like I can almost trust every guy out there in that bullpen. And I love it because I'm not used to it as a Phillies fan. We sat through the 2020 bullpen, the 2021 bullpen. Last year's bullpen was still shaky, but, obviously they got us to the World Series. But now this bullpen, I feel like every guy they put in is going to be a dog. Ortiz, Dominguez, Kimbrel, and Alvarado all combined for the last 5 innings of this game, 3 hits, no earned runs, no walks, and 8 strikeouts from those 4 guys. Dogs. Like, come on. But those guys picked it up. And then we get to the 8th inning, and that's when stuff started happening. You had JT Realmuto hit the RBI single to tie it up, and then Alec Boehmer, RBI single in the same inning to make it 6-5, and then the Phils close it out. Like I said in my keynotes, they don't call them the Fightens for no reason. They fought back. They kept inching away, and like I said, you got to give credit to the pitching here. They kept them in this ball game, and that was huge by them. Huge, because like I said, this game could just trickle out of control and be a whole other thing. A whole different ball game, and then you're throwing in Andrew Vasquez for 2-3 innings. You have Josh Harrison out on the mound again. But luckily, the bullpen was great. My player of the game was Nick Castellanos. Was 3 for 4. Just he's so good. Like, Nick Castellanos is so good, man. Like, I am so happy that guy is back, because that's like picking up a free agent signing. Castellanos was such a black hole in that lineup last year. Now that we're getting, like, I'm not saying it's going to be like 330 Castellanos that we saw in 2021, but like 280, 20. I think we can get that from Nick Castellanos. I don't see why it doesn't seem like he's slowing down. Thank God, because there's some guys that I'm going to talk about right now who I'm a little worried about. So we then get to game 3. So the rubber match, the getaway day for both teams. The Phillies win it 1-0. My players, throwing you a curveball, no pun intended. My players of the game were the Phillies bullpen, consisting of Sir Anthony Dominguez, Connor Brogdon, I was about to say Juan Soto, Gregory Soto, and Craig Kimbrell. This game went by like that. I think it was like 2 hours and 10 minutes. Like, just sped through it because both guys were just pounding the zone. Here's my stuff, hit it. Here's my stuff, hit it. And I love games like that. I love pitcher's duel. The only form of offense for either side was, as we all predicted, Cody Clemens. With an RBI double in the second. It's Cody Clemens. It's Cody Clemens. Yes, it's Cody Clemens. I swear to God, if I like tripled down, yeah, it's Cody Clemens with a K. Yeah, Cody Clemens. Because I remember I talked about him before, and I was calling him Corey Clemens, but it's Cody Clemens. Anyway, Cody Clemens, RBI double in the second. That was a hit and run. He had Castillo on first. Topper, or it might have been Paco, put him in motion. Rips a double. Cassie's able to score pretty easily. And then that's kind of it. Both teams kind of had opportunities to score, but none of them did. Nick Castellanos in the 7th preserved the lead with a diving catch, because that's all he does is just defensive wizardry, which, by the way, me and Matt Saporsky were talking about this. If Juan Soto can be a finalist for the Gold Glove, there is no reason why Nick Castellanos can't be one either. I'm just saying. I'm putting it into the universe. Nick Castellanos, Gold Glover. He had a really good defensive play to preserve the lead, and then the bullpen shut it down. Soto went an inning and a third, really good. Brogdon went 2/3 of an inning. Dominguez, same thing in relief of Strom. I mentioned that earlier in the episode. And then Kimbrel, 1 inning and 2 strikeouts. Looked really good, was touching 96. So my keynotes for this game, because there isn't a lot of action to really talk about, was Strom. Matt Strom has been really, really good in this limited role in his starter. He's kind of the spot starter. The Phillies obviously signed Matt Strom to be a reliever. That hasn't been the case because the injury to Ranger and the injury to Andrew Painter. So it hasn't really been ideal for the Phillies side. Now for Matt Strom, he has been really, really good. Today he went 5 1/3, 2 hits, no earned runs, no walks, and 5 strikeouts. He's really had one bad outing, but even then, I think it was just kind of unlucky because it was the Reds game. It was kind of unlucky. A lot of bloop hits, just couldn't locate really that well. So other than that, Matt Strom has been really, really good. I've been very happy with him as a starter. And if I'm the Phillies, like it's tough because I was having this discussion with my friend Blake about, when Ranger comes back, who are you sending to the bullpen? Are you sending Bailey Falter or are you sending Matt Strom? And my friend said Bailey Falter. And I said, yeah, but you got to look at Falter ramps up as he's going. We saw him in the NLCS last year. Falter wasn't able to get out of the first inning because he always struggles in the first inning of every single start that he ever makes. Obviously, outside of this one, obviously, but I feel like Bailey Falter is a guy who ramps up as the game goes on, so I don't know how good he would translate in the bullpen. So I would much rather see, and I think when Ranger comes back, it's going to be Ranger for like 3 innings and then Matt Strom. It's going to be a piggyback of those two, and those are two dogs, like polar opposite personality wise, but dogs. Like Ranger is nothing bothers him. He's dialed in. He's like, it's me versus it's me and you, and that's it. Nobody else is around. It's me versus you. Here's my stuff and hit it. And Matt Strom is on there. He's talking to himself. He's adjusting his hair. He's like, oh, I gotta locate, keep the effing ball down. Like, come on, like get it to it. So those guys are going to be fun to see as a piggyback duo, which I think that is the smart move to do. I don't know if they'll do it, if they're just going to be like Ranger, just go at it. My apologies. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. I think Matt Strom is more valuable in the bullpen as a long man, as a guy who can come in 1 inning and be solid as another lefty option. Because if Strom goes to the bullpen, they have 4 left-handed relievers in Soto, Alvarado, Strom, and Vasquez. My guess would be Vasquez would be sent down to the minors, and Strom would take Vasquez's role essentially. But even then, like Vasquez has been good. Like this is a good problem to have. But Strom has been really good. A couple guys I'm worried about, and I kind of wanted to touch on this, is Alec Boehm and Trey Turner. Trey Turner, I know Jack Fritz talked about this on the post-game show. He said Turner statistically in the past couple years, April is his worst month. But I just think it's a lot of the strikeouts are concerned. He's striking out a lot. He's swinging at that dang pitch up and in. And it's just a lot of weak contact. Like I really thought, coming off of the WBC, he'd be hitting for a lot more power, like a lot more line drives. And it just hasn't been that. And I'm not saying that Trey Turner has been bad. The guy's still hitting like 270 something. But, I worry about the strikeouts and how he's getting the hits. Like I said, it's a lot of weak contacts, a lot of strikeouts, and he only has 2 home runs on the season. But I'm not reading too much into it because I think as Phillies fans, we're so used to Trey Turner visiting us, midway through the season when he's already ramped up and warmed up and he's already hitting 310 and has 15, 20 home runs. We're not used to the lulls of Trey Turner because every time he would play us when he was on the Nationals and the Dodgers, he would be such a pain in the rear end. And I hated playing against him. And that's why when we signed him, I'm like, oh my God, finally, this guy is one of us. I think we just got to be patient with him. I trust the back of the baseball card with Trey Turner much more than I do with Alec Bohm, mostly because Bohm finally is starting to show progress, and now he's receding a little bit. And obviously, all players go into slumps. That's just a part of the game. You know, you're never gonna have a guy like a Tony Gwynn who just slumping is not an option for him. But I, I think with Bohm, his issue is he's trying to pull everything, and that's not the type of guy that Alec Bohm is. You know, when we see him struggling, he's trying to pull everything, pull. When he's going good, he's hitting the ball to all field. He's spraying it all over. You know, obviously he had that hit last night, which was huge, but it was just a little dinky ground ball through the hole. I want to see him drive the ball more. You know, I need my Alec Bohm MVP pick to be right here, and obviously, it's the end of April. Like the sky isn't falling on Alec Bohm's season, and nor with Trey Turner. I just think it's something to keep an eye on. But if you have guys ramping up, like Stott has continued to look great, Marsh has continued to look great, Casty has been swinging the hell out of the ball or the bat, excuse me. JT has been really well. Schwarber is going to get what you're going to get. What you're going to get with Kyle Schwarber. And I never thought I'd say this. I've been impressed with Christian Pache, and if you have him in the lineup every day, then I think that's a recipe for success. But you know, those guys, that's the benefit of having a team like the Phillies do, is every guy is lifted up by one another. You know, no guy is left out to hang. So I think they're both going to be fine. I think it's just a little bit of a rough patch, but you know, I think they'll be able to tread water, and who knows? The next series the Phillies have is against the Astros. Who knows? You know, Turner could go off in that series, and the same thing with Bohm. And then this argument I'm making is absolutely asinine. But as of today, April 27th, I'm a little worried about them. But I think they're going to be fine. I think Kevin Long, which please for the love of God, Kevin Long never leave Philadelphia. He's fixed Pache. He's fixed Cody Clemens, sort of. He's fixed Edmundo, Brandon Marsh. I'm trying to think of anybody else. Anybody else that man touches, it just turns to gold. But Schwarber basically saved his career. Forgot about that. But my point is, they could turn it around at a moment's notice. And you know, until then, we have guys that are starting to heat up who were lacking while those guys were carrying us. So it's nice to see, and it's good to have a bit of that break there. So again, like I said, game 3, there wasn't a lot of action, and I feel like this episode, it's gonna be hard to segment because I started doing chapters with these. So if somebody wants to hear what I had to say about game 1, they can just hit. I feel like I'm gonna have a bit of a harder time doing that because I've kind of talked about everything in a sense. So maybe I won't do the chapters for this episode because it just seems a little all over the place, but in a good way, in a good contained all over the place. Like I'm not talking about game 1, blah, 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 game 2, blah, 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 game 3, blah, 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 blah. And then kind of talking about everything as a whole at the end. Like I've kind of mixed it in pretty well, I think. Or this is just going to sound like a jumbled mess and none of it's going to be coherent. And I'm just going to be looking like an absolute idiot. Anyway, the Phillies are heading to the House of Horrors in Houston, Texas to take on the Houston Astros, the team that beat them in the World Series. The pitching matchups are as followed. We have Aaron Nola versus Framber Valdez, Zach Wheeler versus Christian Javier, Bailey Falter versus Jose Urquidy on Sunday Night Baseball. So we have an 8-10, an 8-10 sandwich, and in between we have a 5-10 start for that second game, which okay. Just keep chugging along. Try to take a game. The Astros are a little slow, but they're starting to pick it up a little bit. So we all know we don't need the rundown of the Astros. They're basically the same team. The pitching is fantastic. The offense, everything about them is fantastic. I'm going to have nightmares thinking about this godforsaken series, but I think take one game. I'm a realist here. I'm never gonna lie to the listener. I'm never gonna deceive you and be like, oh, they're gonna take 2 or 3. I think they win a game in here, and you obviously know it's gonna be the Bailey Falter start because that's how baseball works. I do think they sneak a game here. I don't see them taking 2 out of 3 or even sweeping. Like I would be impressed, but I think they just take 1 out of these 3 games and be happy with that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope everybody in this who's listening, all like however many of you, thousands of you, obviously who are listening, are like, no, yeah, you were wrong. Yeah, come at me if I'm wrong, but that's gonna do it for me. I appreciate everybody for listening, and I appreciate all of the recent support that I've been getting. It's been great to see, and it just makes me so happy that the job that I'm doing and trying to do with this content stuff is paying off, and people are enjoying it and making them laugh and happy, and it just makes me feel like I'm doing a really good job at this. I hope I am. My goal is to just be as positive as possible given positivity, and as negative as possible when given negativity, and just try to be real. And I've really appreciated the support and everything. I've been doing this for 9 months now, which is insane. And the growth I've seen has been awesome to see. So that's going to do it for me today. I'm going to probably be back Monday, like night ish, because it's a Sunday night game. And then maybe I'll try to do it in the morning. It's either going to be Monday. The next episode's definitely going to be on Monday. I don't know if it's going to be Monday morning or Monday night. I'll have to wait and see because I work at 10 a.m. So if I wake up and record in the morning and then try to edit by the time I get over, but we'll see. But Monday is going to be the next episode because of that Sunday night game. So that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you then.